Hello everyone and welcome back to another video here on the Lil'X YouTube channel. In today's video we are going to go back and check out the iPod Nano 5th generation, which we have right here. This one of course is the one that got introduced with the camera. Camcorders were popular around this time. YouTube was starting to build up whenever this came out, so everybody was talking about recording clips, video. That's what prompted Steve Jobs to add a camera to the iPod, and there's actually a clip which Steve Jobs compares this camera to those little camcorders that you used to like hold up, little cheap plastic camcorders, which apparently this could shoot the same amount of quality video. I think it's 480p. We will go ahead and check out some footage later, but the reason why we are checking it out, of course, for a lot of people, especially nowadays, young people, they are not going to experience this. Now, of course, I didn't either. At the time, iPods were more expensive. Of course, I ended up experiencing an MP3 player, specifically one from RCA, which I do have one. And it looks a little bit like this right here. So this is kind of like the same model that I had. These were obviously way cheaper than an iPod, so at the time, you know, my parents were like, why would we get you this expensive device if this does pretty much the same thing? Even though, of course, quality-wise, this is, you know, cheap plastic, and then this is aluminum, which, you know, feels more premium, much thinner, and it had a camera. This didn't. But enough of that. Like I said, we're going to go back and check it out. But of course, you know, we're all used to the iPhone, right? Being the most popular music player as of now. We have Spotify, Apple Music. You can buy music from iTunes, which a lot of people don't really do nowadays. You can also, of course, you know, download music from other places, which we're not going to specifically get into that. But yeah, a lot of people are going to get their start in music with the iPhone. A lot of people, you know, they did not get to experience the iPod. The iPhone is where it all started. And of course, you know, from the iPhone derived the iPod Touch. So the iPod Touch actually, you know, kicked off the iPod Nano and the Classics as the #1 MP3 player in the industry. Of course, you know, you had the same capabilities as an iPhone, but without, you know, the cellular plan and all of that. You didn't have to worry about your kid, you know, making calls, texting. So you didn't have no, you know, text messaging, none of that. Even though that did get introduced at a later version of iOS with the iPod Touch 4th generation, I believe. It included FaceTime and iMessage. But yeah, so from this, we came to this, and then this took over the iPod. So let's go ahead and check it out. Get a quick sense of what it was back in the day to use one of these devices. Now, checking it out, it is obviously incredibly thin. This thing is stupid thin. Now, comparing it to my iPhone 15 Pro Max, you can obviously see that this is totally tiny compared to my phone. And then, of course, camera-wise, it is hilarious how small this little camera is. But, of course, you know, that's how it was in the back in the day. And, of course, comparing the screen, it is a joke. I think it was like 2.5 inches. I will go ahead and post some specs here to the side. But, yes, incredibly tiny for what it is. Now, here at the front, we had our scroll wheel, touch sensitive, of course. So you scroll through the UI, and of course, you know, we have our center button, play, pause, skip. If you hold this down, you can see through the song that you're playing. Menu, at the top we had our on and off button, so we pressed it, it didn't do anything. This was actually the hold button, so if you're playing music, you can put this in your pocket, and even if you press the button, it would not work. I just remember that. At the bottom, the iconic 30-pin dock connector, which of course, you know, the iPhone also had. Headphone jack. We do not have that anymore on newer devices. From laptops to tablets to iPhones to Android phones, we no longer have it. Of course, you know, this being music players, obviously, you know, they prioritize having one of those, but we no longer have it. And of course, this is super thin. This is thinner than this one, I believe. Let's go ahead and check out the UI. So as you can see here, now this iPod included a gyro sensor. So that means that if you tilt it, it'll actually go into cover flow mode. The same thing that this does. This did. So if you see here, some things did kind of get transferred over while they kept this alive. So as you can see there, it'll show it. If you turn this one on sideways, it'll also show it. Obviously, you know, this is touchscreen versus this one, you know, you had to use a scroll wheel. So if you scroll around, you know, it works pretty good. select a song, click into it, and this iPod, I was surprised. I did not knew that it included a speaker in the iPod. I have a iPod Nano 2nd generation, and that one included a speaker only for the clicker, which this one has. As you can hear, it has the little, the little clicker whenever you scroll. But I did not know that it had a speaker for whenever you played the song. So as you can hear, now it's a little tinny. It is not the clearest, but it has it, and I am completely surprised that it does. Like I said, it is not the clearest. As you can see here, here we go. The song that I made, well, the loop, I made it full volume. Like I said, it's a little bit tinny, but the fact that this thing has a speaker, it is crazy surprising. Now, like I said, this is super thin, thinner than my Apple Watch, as you can see there. And it has a speaker. This is mind-boggling to me. Now, this iPod came out in 2009. 2009. And for this to still be functional nowadays, it's proof that these iPods were built like tanks. Now, obviously, they had their issues. Screens, fail. Battery obviously fail. They're usually, broken. They get scratched to heck. This one, like I said, it's in beautiful condition. The person who had it actually had it in one of these little cases, which I just took it out for the video. I'm going to put it right back whenever I'm done. But like I said, the main feature of this iPod was the camera. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So to go into the camera, you go into the little settings. So video camera, it opens up the camera. It does the little animation like the old iPhones used to do. And there we go. I believe this is 480p video. I will put the actual resolution of what it is somewhere on the screen, but let's go ahead and take a video. So to take a video, just press, and we are recording. So I will actually show you the audio from the iPod. So this is what it looks like. We have our blue microphone here. This is what I used to record audio for the videos. We have the iPod. So this is how a video review would look back in the day if we were recording it from an iPod Nano. As you can see there, the video is actually pretty good. I don't know about the how stable it is, but I'm kind of holding it pretty steady. It looks pretty good to me, so we'll go ahead and check it out once we blow it up. Once we load it up into the camera, but it looks pretty good to me so far. See that we have the Apple Watch. Yeah, it looks good to me. And there we have it. That was a quick look at the iPod's video capabilities. And of course, we can play it back on device. So if I click into it, once again, the speaker is kind of tinny. But I will go ahead and load up the video up so y'all can see it, the full video. Original, of course, I'm not going to edit the audio on it or anything. Obviously, that's not the only things that we get. Obviously, we get photos, we get radio, even though for the radio, I believe you needed an adapter or the headphones. So if you plug in a pair of headphones, you can use it, you can use the radio functionality. So it'll use the headphones as an antenna for it. Go back, so it'll, you can select favorite radio stations, live pause. So you can actually pause the radio. That was, pretty cool back in the day since, it's pretty much live. Video camera, extras, we have, I believe, you can have an alarm, calendar, clocks, contacts, fitness. We got games, notes, lock screen. This was pretty cool. It kind of resembled like an old classic lock, and you would scroll through the different combinations. We're not gonna set one since we don't need it. Stopwatch. You could use it as a stopwatch. Let's say you're doing track, running laps. You have a stopwatch, or if you need it for a different things. Voice memos. You can record voice memos. Obviously, we do have, and wow, this has a microphone too. Obviously, for the camera, but that is something that the iPod Touch doesn't even have. And this also has a voice memos app, and this does not have an included microphone. As you can see here, we have a voice memos app, and on this one, if you try to record, you need the headphones with the inline microphone. So you can't even record a voice note on the iPod Touch. And that's supposed to be more advanced. as we keep going, of course, we had the voice notes, and that's it. So the games on here were pretty basic, but they were actually pretty entertaining. So we have Klondike, I don't really know, Maze, and Vortex. Now this one was pretty cool, if I remember it correctly. So once again, Apple 2008. It has sound. You would enter a name. Just go ahead and select whatever. New game. And I believe you just had to match the color. Oh, battery right now. So like I mentioned, they did have some issues. This one obviously is going to need a battery replacement, which is why I was able to get it so cheap. The battery replacement on these things are, well, the process. It is pretty difficult. You kind of got to push everything out. Of course, do some soldering and stuff like that. So it is a little bit difficult replacing the battery, but it's not impossible. So that will be obviously the next thing for me to do. Now, pretty much that's it. It was a pretty simple device. A music player, MP3 player, that says it all. Except this one, of course, had the little camera as a extra bonus feature. That was what was touted as being the prime main thing for this generation. As it's booting up once again, as you can see, we have the iconic iPod logo, and it came back up. So probably running the game needed a little extra horsepower, but as you can see there, it comes back up and it runs no issues. Music, once again, we have a cover flow, and for music this thing works great. I mean, if the battery lasted, I would honestly use it nowadays. We have 16 gigabytes of storage. This one did not have it back here like they did for every other iPod. As you can see here, this one lists storage, but the way you can see how much storage you have, I believe you here we go, settings, it'll tell you how much you have free. So we have 12.9 gigs free, and then the rest is obviously being used by games, the operating system, and of course music. I think I have around 200 and some songs on here. So we have 269 songs, and we have 1.9 gigabytes to use, as you can see here. I'm really hoping that y'all were able to see this. Obviously my recording thing is kind of flimsy, but yeah, this has been a video about the iPod Nano 5th generation. It is, like I said, it's always nice to go back and look at where it all started. Obviously after this one it got smaller, and then it got bigger again, and they ended up with a kind of one similar to the iPod Touch for the last generation of the Nano. And then now a lot of its technologies are still, in the Apple Watch and what we use today. One feature that I wish they would bring back is cover flow. That would be so cool to see nowadays. Of course, not a lot of people would know where it came from, but those of us who know, we will certainly know. I miss cover flow, just, turning it on its side and being able to just look at the album real quick. Obviously, with this one we can spin it and then, tap and move around. And yeah, so this has been a quick video of the iPod Nano 5th generation. If you had one of these growing up, let me know in the comments down below. I'm really curious. Like I said, I never had one growing up. I wanted one so bad, but like I said, I had one of these instead, which was pretty cheap and flimsy, but it did its job. I could play videos and stuff on this. I enjoyed it. It was good to me. Obviously, it wasn't the iPod, which is, what everybody wanted nowadays. It was the flagship music player. But like I said, this carried me through. And yeah, I enjoyed it at the time. And well, with that said, if you feel like you want to, please subscribe. It'll really, help the channel out. I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers by the end of the year. So, go ahead and share the video if you know a friend, somebody, a family member who had one of these. And they enjoyed it. Maybe they would like to remember how things were back in the day before we got to, of course, all the streaming services that we know today. And yeah, without further ado, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.